you can see, my friends, if you haven't been paying attention, or if you have been paying attention, either way, I'm telling you, something is happening so fantastically in the country. And you might want to say in the American conservative movement, but I don't even want to do that because I don't like this conservative stuff. I'm not a conservative. I don't have a name to describe my political philosophical, sociological, worldview, my geopolitical idea. There's no name for it. You can't give it a name. You can't say conservative, or you certainly can't call it liberal. These words don't work. But for the sake of just shortcuts, we'll call it conservative for this. But I'm not a conservative. I'm not a Republican. None of that stuff. I'm an American, and I'm a realist, and I know what's going on. And if you're paying attention at all, you can feel what I'm saying. You can feel it. And it's not subtle by any stretch of the imagination. It's not polite. It's not waiting for permission. Can I do it? It will brook no apologias. None of that. No expiation. And at the center of it is, you got it, Candace Owens. And this is driving these people nuts. Because it's not a politician. She's not running for office. She's the most powerful person on the internet today, bar none. Period. End of discussion. I have not seen anything like this I can make some comparisons, but even the comparisons don't work. Candace Owens has emerged as one of the most powerful, forceful voices who is redefining what this movement, I guess, is supposed to be. Not what it used to be, not what it pretended to be, not what we hearken back to what it used to be, but what it's becoming. And that shift is making a lot of people very, very, very uncomfortable. And I love it. Love it. Because this is no longer just about party loyalty, whatever the party is, or repeating familiar talking points and tropisms and tropes and memes and all this stuff. This blather, this prattle, this prate. This is about a recalibration of values. A return, some would argue, maybe to fundamentals: faith, family, cultural identity, America, American ideals, a rejection of endless foreign entanglements. You hear what I'm saying? America first. And I mean America first. I don't mean no, America first. I would go so far as to say America only. A deep-seated skepticism of systems that once claimed to represent conservative interests, but now, I guess, look more like what? Gatekeepers protecting their own relevance. Do you see what's happening right now? And the cable conservative news shows, they don't know what to do about this. All they can do is call her crazy, or anti-Semitic, or lunatic, or nuts, or satanic and demonic. Come on. What Candace Owens represents to her supporters is authenticity. I can't say it again, and that should be what people. It's what people believe in. It's what Trump used to profess. It's what Trump was. And I've been telling people all the time. Look, I don't want to get into this, kind of a screed on President Trump, but I don't know if I want to make America great again. I want to make Trump again. I want to bring him back to the basics of love, as Waylon Jennings would intone. We want authenticity. We want directness. We want a refusal to play along with what they see as the managed narrative, the kind of like this kabuki dance, this pretend, this choreographed ideology. Candace Owens doesn't ask for approval from anyone, and certainly not from traditional power centers. And she does not seem particularly or at all interested in maintaining alliances that feel transactional or hollow. She's done with that. And that alone sets her apart in a political environment where, and you've got to admit it, where messaging is often tightly controlled and the narrative is maintained and carefully filtered. This is huge. I hope I know you're paying attention. And that's where the friction begins. There's a lot of friction. Organizations like TPUSA, whatever that is today, whatever the remnant of this is, whatever the chanking of this is. By the way, that used to be a word that you use for spitting out pits and the holes when you would punch holes in paper. It's It's the tinker's dam. It's the remnant. It's a remnant of something that was. It was evidence of something that used to exist but doesn't anymore. TPUSA once was seen as central to youth-driven conservative energy, thanks to Charlie Kirk, and they're now facing a different kind of scrutiny and mutiny. Not from opponents on the left, oh nay, but from within their own ideological sphere, their own little kernel. And the criticism is not about whether they are effective at mobilizing support. That's not it. It's about very simply this. It's about whether they still represent the values that they claim to represent. And there is a growing sense, my friend, among conservatives that the old structure has become performative, choreographed, nonsense, curated. And that, by the way, prioritizes optics over substance, loyalty over truth, and access over conviction. And that is what we're talking about. And by the way, it's grown very, very comfortable in its role, perhaps too comfortable. I mean, they're just sitting fat and happy. See how much money these people make? You see how much money they make? The homes, the cars, the jets. Oh my God. What a racket. And people know that. And the whole thing is resistant to the kind of internal challenge that movements require if they are going to evolve and remain relevant. They're not interested in that. They want to keep the status quo. That's why our dear friend Erica, 6 days or so after her husband was slaughtered, she gets into that, hey guys. Remember that? She's doing this Glengarry Glen Ross, coffees for closers. What are you talking about? That still blew people away. Next to the casket thing, but I don't want to get into that. See that's where the current tension is. It's where it is right here. It's not simply personality driven. It's structural. On one side of this this structure, you have a more traditional framework. Institutional. I guess it'd be a good word for it. Organized, media savvy, focused on messaging and discipline and coalition building. And on the other, well, you have a more insurgent energy, less polished, more confrontational, willing in many respects to question alliances and organizations and confederations, including ones, by the way, that once were considered untouchable. And then we have these other groups of people like Tucker Carlson, who is also reshaping everything, and you must mention him. He is absolutely incredible as an ideological supplement to this momentum here. He's tapped into something interesting, and by the way, the same current. There is a shift toward questioning long-standing assumptions about foreign policy, about that which was considered verboten to even question. Economic priorities, cultural direction. The result is a movement that is less predictable and more internally divided, but also more ideologically active. And that's the most important thing. The issues driving this shift are not trivial in the least. They include concerns about war and intervention and the proper role of America. This is the role of religion in the public life, the structure of the family, and the influence of large institutions, both governmental and corporate. You see, these are not new topics by any stretch of the imagination. Oh, no. But the way they're being framed, is changing drastically. See, there's also a stronger emphasis on coherence. There's a stronger emphasis on coherence and on aligning rhetoric with action. And that's what's important here. And by the way, on asking whether the movement is actually delivering that which is what it purports to do, delivering on the principle that it claims to defend. Remember that what was TPUSA all about? And that brings us to the real question. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the real question. I say unto you. Is this fragmentation or is it evolution? Is this the decomposition, the controlled demolition of once was a very powerful and significant movement? Because every political movement, by the way, eventually reaches a point where it has to decide whether it is going to maintain its existing structure or adapting something new under new pressures. And that precisely is the process we're talking about. And that process is rarely smooth. It often involves conflict and redefinition and the emergence of new voices that challenge established hierarchies. This is called a revolution. That's what this is, make no doubt about it. Now, for some, this movement represents a necessary correction. I understand it, I dig it. A clearing out of what they see, kind of a flushing, think of it almost like an enema, to use that imagery, of complacency. By the way, a chance to rebuild around a more grounded, values-driven foundation. That's what Candace Owens is pushing. And for other people, it looks like instability. It looks like a weakening of unity at a time when cohesion is seen as essential. You tell me. Either way, I know what's happening and you know what's happening. Remember, it all depends upon the interpretation of this. But one thing is clear. The conversation is no longer controlled by a single, lane of thought, by some narrative. It's widening. And with what comes opportunity, what comes with that is opportunity and risk. I'm telling you right now, Candace Owens is right at the center, the epicenter, the core of this, and the center of that tension. Not as the sole voice, but as one of the most visible ones. A catalyst more than a conclusion. And she is driving everybody crazy, and they've all received their notes. They've got their marching orders. Trash her, destroy her, defame her, oppugn her, execrate her. Good luck, because the more you go after her, the more her resilience is manifested, and the more people stand behind her. Whether this leads to a stronger, more defined movement, or a fractured one, or a fractious one, that remains to be seen. But the shift, my friend, is real. Pay attention to what's going. This is a revolution. And it's not slowing down. Look at the people who were involved in this. Look at some of these great, these contributors. Look at these researchers. Everything. They know everything that Erica's ever done. If she takes off a necklace, if she coughs, if she uses a phrase all the time. There are people who sit around and research and plumb the depths of her sometimes her nonsensical histrionics at levels I never thought even possible. It is beyond anything even remotely what's the word? It's beyond anything remotely imagined. That makes sense. So let me just tell you something. Enjoy this, my friends. Enjoy this and watch what is happening. But do not mistake this. Do not mistake this for some kind of, some little transitory thing. Oh, there's a Snoop. Oh, she's a... Let me tell you something. They come and they go. I'm not going to mention any names. I'm not going to talk about people. But the thing is the long run. And by the way, one more thing. And God bless anybody who decides to pick up a mic and go and do this, whatever the hell it is that I'm doing here. But there's a difference between doing it and making an impact. Being popular or being powerful. There are many, many people who probably may have more numbers. I think Joe Rogan, probably in terms of culture, he is unbeatable in terms of his fandom, popularity, and the like. But when it comes to power, if Candace Owens decides to yell, storm the Bastille, people are going to do it. She can galvanize votes. She can redirect and corral a momentum, a psephological momentum. I'm telling you. I saw this 25 plus years ago when Alex Jones came at the time during the nascent period of the internet. He blew people out of the water. Nobody knew what he was talking about. Bold, brash, evangelical. It was almost Elmer Gantry, hellfire and brimstone. Nobody had ever seen this before. And he talked about everything you can imagine, taking every notion of believed and understood history and accepted truth, turned it on its head. And that spirit we're seeing right now. Remember, you don't have to agree. I don't care whether people agree, disagree. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about look what's happening. This defies anything on cable. If you're watching cable news, if you're getting anything from cable news, you are intellectually, spiritually, and morally dead. You're moribund. You are putrefying. You are putrescent. You are decomposing. It's over with. It's over. This is something different because this is it's like sometimes when you involve yourself in cuisines, you can say, here's American flavor. Oh, that's nice. Here's salt and pepper. Oh, that's nice. Here's garlic. Ooh, that's nice. Here's Italian. That's nice. And then somebody introduces you to Indian, and you've got 50 flavors at one time. What is this? That's what this is. It's this cacophony. It's this explosion of ideas. It is simply called, listen to me right now, it is a revolution. And I don't use that term lightly. This is a revolution.